those like paradises and blisses also felt very real. The moon is an illusion in a way. It's not something that casts its own light, but instead something that reflects the light of the sun. And in most symbolism, including the tarot cards that most people commonly use, the moon is linked with delusion, illusion, and hidden things. So just so you know, I debated how much of a heads up I should give the players about this, because I decided it would be the opposite of fun if you guys just like all laughed and clapped and had a good time. And then I was like, by the way, you lose. Like, the more you kind of like play along, the more you, yes, she wrecks you basically. By the way, she's going to wreck you. It's not like wrecking like she's going to uppercut you. It'll just be wrecking like you have an ending where it's like, yeah, everybody wins and we're all peaceful and we win. And we did it, guys. And that is exactly what she is trying to accomplish. She wants a nice, peaceful, relaxed, non-combative, non-confrontational ending. That is the white ending. And yes, then time for a nice sleep. How you guys decide to handle that is up to you, but I figured it would be better to give you an awareness of that and an opportunity to deal with it if and when the time comes to deal with it. On that note, there is someone else who is having their own issue. Jeff Lynn, CEO of the ELO, a man who has died, come back, a man who he's had to deal with a lot. He's done a lot. And right now he's struggling to survive as his body threatens to completely just basically disintegrate into 1,000 points of light that will be cast into all directions throughout the universe, probably far, far away from one another. Someone who is made out of hard light. At first, I'm sure he was quite coherent, but as time goes on and he does more with his abilities, he is going to have great difficulty keeping himself together. He is familiar with some of this ability that he has. Lifelong, well, not lifelong, but since he's had his stand, there's always been this aspect of light energy containment, recreation. It's probable that Mr. Blue Sky is one of the more powerful stands for this reason. It's just that he had a very limited application and even understanding of how it worked. Now, when I saw him, he was stalking over the... Oh yeah, Jim wasn't here for this. And when we cut out Jim of the last session, he was basically looming over the reincarnated Golden Echo and Playground Martyr in the background world with the Grail. The how do I say this? There's a lot of mechanisms that could lead him to this solution. First and foremost, he has the ability to basically like read minds and information from brains now because of the way that minds work and kind of the various little impulses and synapses that are fired off because of the channels in the brain through which energy will travel based on light that it receives. Even when your eyes are closed, you still have stimulation from light. This is a thing that people deal with constantly. It's one of the things that regulates your melatonin levels, and the body also absorbs light, as you know, to I don't know what you want to call it, fabricate vitamin D or create, set off that process with vitamin D. It uses it for different hormones as well, serotonin, melatonin, dopamine to some extent. In fact, I believe that's how dopamine is converted into serotonin, and melatonin is partially exposure to light is involved. So if there's a human and they are present and Jeff is present, you can assume that he will have an effect and that he will be able to read sometimes surface level thoughts and sometimes memories from them, from something as brief as a glance. That's part of why I'm sure you guys think he is scary. And don't worry, he knows that now. He knows exactly how frightening he is as a person. He knows that he seems unstable and power hungry. He knows, I mean, according to your perception anyway, he's familiar with it now. And he's having to deal with that on top of struggling with his body completely exploding into just a billion points of light. The question is, because I generally think I know what he would do. And so you have the input now to sort of slightly guide Jeff through his path of not exploding into a billion points of light. Or maybe you want him not to commit basically what is a war crime. Because he came here to basically harvest a fucking mother and child of like their soul's force and energy so he can keep himself coherent. Jeff's destiny lies in your hands today on Jiao. Well, the mechanic here will be as Jeff's stability goes down, obviously he risks completely disassembling into light. This is a very real threat. If things don't go well for him here, he could actually be taken out and not be in the rest of the campaign. Or I don't know if it'd be death exactly. He's not exactly alive. So he really is, his life really is in your guys' hand. So think of it in a way as in you are a trio of Jeff's guardian angels.
Oh, good. He needs them.
Yeah.
And yes, he does need them. What he's about to do could be, well, it could save him, certainly. But what is it worth saving a life and losing your soul in the process is the question. So Jeff has approached the reincarnation of Golden Echo and Playground Martyr. They aren't aware of his presence yet. He is in possession of the Grail. He is currently only 43% stable. And he knows that if he loses too much more, he will run the risk of annihilation. He's not sure what will happen to him, but he is sure that it won't be good. He is also very sure that no one will be able to save him. If he is moving at the speed of light in many different directions, there's no one with a stand powerful enough to be able to catch all those points and recompose him. The only exception may be being Golden Echo, but she's currently unaware in the form of a sleeper, a reincarnated NPC that exists in the background world, existing within a world of illusion, a fabrication of the afterlife that captures souls and keeps them contained for a very set cycle of reincarnation and fulfillment of certain duties and obligations given to them in a way, or at least guided by Golden Echo once upon a time. Now the system is without an operator, and the person who once was at the head of this entire machine sits on a bench, trapped within her own snare, completely unaware of the predator that lurks behind her. The hawk, the man made of light, the living laser Jeff Flynn. He is going to have to roll a durability check against a passive difficulty of 4. He passes. As he is staggering towards that bench, he is struck by a wave of pain, something that he didn't think that he was capable of feeling, really. At this point, he doesn't have a body, nerve endings, anything. He only exists within his own perspective and his own experience. He's just otherwise not alive. So yes, laser pain. It's the pain of something, but he isn't sure what. It gives him pause. And he doesn't give himself away right away to the people that he is hunting. His next move could be to either talk to Golden Echo, to simply throw a light spear at her, or to throw a light spear at Playground Martyr to catch her off guard. Those are the 3 options. If I had to guess, obviously talk, but maybe you just want Golden Echo to get hit with a laser spear. You're the angels on his shoulder right now.
Talking doesn't usually hurt.
Can always laser spear later. Talk now.
Yeah.
He is going to approach and open a dialogue. He does so by standing over her for a moment and then sitting down on the bench that she's sitting down on. In his hand, There are little arcs of energy where he may summon a spear. Mr. Blue Sky always there and ready to form that light into the weapon that he uses to throw and pierce and explode. Instead, it's only a background process in his mind right now. It's always there that he could just throw that spear like Zeus from Mount Olympus and just strike anyone down that he wishes. Instead, something within him has told him not to resort to violence. First act of violence, opening up an asymmetric battle. He has chosen instead diplomacy. So he sits, and she doesn't notice at first, or at least she isn't aware of who he is. So he leans back. He will open up with a topic based on one of her aspects, including her high concept and her trouble. I will allow you guys to pick which one he should discuss. He's weighing morally the cost of saving his own life and sustaining himself at the death of what was a criminal basically, but is now an innocent soul.
I would say has never known true love or just her high concept, because she's the handmaid to the lady that's like fucking up the moon.
Okay, so that's kind of like 2 votes, I think, for never known true love. Or what do you choose, Mia?
That sounds good. He's sort of same boat with her on that. I think she even catfished him once.
She did.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows it. Part of why he's here to destroy everything. He leans forward with his elbows to his knees and watches Playground Martyr run and chase pigeons and try to find rocks to throw at people, and stares coldly. There was a time when he would have seen something like this and at least felt the slightest tinge of warmth and a common bond with humanity. Instead, all he sees is basically his destroyer in so many ways. And next to him is that thing's mother, something that had manipulated him throughout his entire life in almost every aspect. She helped to forge the ELO as it currently stands. She stood by while the Red Moon Massacre occurred. She even tricked him into falling into love with her. This is as close as he can get to a god and being next to them. And not only that, he is well within his capability right now to completely annihilate her and the child as well. Still, there is a question of everything that he has fought for and the people that have influenced him. And so he feels he owes it to himself to at least try this thing of this discussion, talking to an enemy. And so he does. He leans back and motions to the child and says, "Cute kid, where's the father?" Golden Echo, who is just a blonde woman with a rather tall updo, seems confused at first and then only responds, I don't know where he is. Odd, I never really thought about it. Jeff nods to himself. Makes sense in a way that you wouldn't know. The awareness level of certain people in this world seems to be quite low on purpose, designed, organized to keep you on a loop. Something familiar, I'm sure, or at least it would be. Find it a little ironic now, actually. If you don't know who the father is, then I have to ask, have you ever considered, I don't know, finding someone to be the boy's father? Someone to be with, even? Or do you even feel the need for love? Golden Echo just kind of laughs to herself. Golden Echo obviously wouldn't be called Golden Echo. She wouldn't have a name. So I'll ask you, the players, what should her mortal name be? What should her reincarnated name be? The easiest option is just Goldie. Aurelia sounds fine. That's like a fantasy NPC kind of name.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll go with Aurelia. So Aurelia, as she is called, is taken aback by the question. She just kind of like scooches over away from him a little. Rather forward, don't you think? Jeff kind of laughs to himself It is a forward question. And very odd for him to ask a stranger, and to see her react in such a human way is very odd to him. It took him out of his pain and his like despondency for a moment to see her just respond like a person and not like a robot he always assumed her to be. Now he can change the conversation to something on his sheet. So if you double click him, you'll see that he has several aspects as well. You guys can pick one of those, and he will follow the conversation based on that. And we will also do social roles here. In fact, we should do a social role right now to determine how both of them are doing in this conversation. So she is, let's say, she is rolling precision to try and figure out what the fuck his deal is, and he is going to roll
Power.
Oof. So he takes 3 mental stress from that. But it's not mental stress like how you think. It's not that he's getting like stressed out. It's just like his point in the conversation.
I'm gonna say he should invoke Protective Lewis so we can explain how having a family is really good for.
Do you want to re-roll power, you mean?
Can I just like invoke that then for him?
Yeah, you can invoke that for him.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him my fate point then.
Okay. Spend 1 fate point. He will re-roll power. Whoops.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch. Just not meant to be, I guess.
I mean, any of you can spend fate points. He's not going to spend any. So this is really on you. You'll have all your fate points. You can dump them if you want. If not, it's fine. He just took 3 mental stress. It's not like he's, gonna die or anything from this. Maybe. We'll see. So you want him to talk about his brother. That's fine. He will.
An innocent boy. Yes.
Do any of you have a different recommendation, or do you also vote for that?
That seems logical about going
same.
from family conversation to family conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff has a small kind of sad laugh to himself and nods. Yeah, it was kind of forward, I guess, but I've been thinking about my own family a lot lately. What my brother would do if I wasn't here. He puts on we'll say, stiff upper lip about it, but I'm not sure he'd be all right. I'm not sure the world would be all right without me around. Probably sounds pretty full of myself, and I'm sure it is. He glances over at Golden Echo. Let's say, hypothetically, that there was a god of the world, and they meddled in everything. They were ruthless, they were demanding, and they had a great attention for detail. And let's say that god just disappeared one day. Do you think that would be for the best? Or do you think that they would be leaving behind a world that would be unable to operate without them in it? Let's roll again for them. Alrighty. Jeff takes 1 mental stress. You can fate point it if you want.
I think that one's close. That one's close enough that if I do fate point it, he'd actually win. Yeah, okay, I might as well.
What are you going to invoke? Though if you invoke something of yours, it will have a different effect on the conversation, because it is like an invocation of what he's thinking of.
They're talking about Lewis, and if the god should be gone. I guess I'd chosen one because he kind of thinks of himself as a kind of a god, so it's like talking god to god. Yeah.
Yes. So invoking that, the way that he acted and what he said to her, she does get a sort of strange bristling at that comment about God and how he presents himself. She just folds her hands on her lap and stares out at her child and says, I don't know if I quite follow, but it does seem rather high and mighty to refer to yourself as a god. I would say that if there was a god who paid so much attention, organized so many things, was manipulative and even cruel, as you say, it is likely that they depended on the world as much as the world depended on them. But if you divorce the god from the world, then it is really the god will be the worse for it. The world will likely move on. It has something that the god needs to operate on, mess with, change. Without those things, it would be like my son without toys, I guess. Bored, violent. She kind of just grimaces as she sees Playground Martyr throw a rock at a pigeon and hit it. The pigeon kind of bobs in the air, and you can even see, because it's the background world, it has a little -1 pop up over it before it recovers and takes off. From the conversation that's been had so far, though, Golden Echo seems to be working through something herself as she entertains the discussion of the stranger. One last topic of discussion between them, and then the result will be decided. So she has 1 mental stress. He has 3. If he ends this discussion with more mental stress than her, it is likely that he will resort to violence when this is done. So you will definitely want to dump your fate points to keep that from happening. If you want to keep that from happening. If you don't want that to keep that from happening, don't worry about it. Or even guide him towards it if you want. So feel free to pick one last topic of discussion, and this time choose one from Nia's sheet.
First one I'm drawn to is paradoxical witness. Because they've both seen some shit now.
Yeah, we are in a
Yeah,
weird place right now. Sure, Jeff is now a witness to something weird.
Especially if he can look into everyone's thoughts now.
Jeff can see into the thoughts of many different people.
And Golden Echo is all about, like, keeping things nice and tidy. So, but he knows, like, their hearts now.
Yeah, can he look into her eyes?
Do you want him to?
Oh, kinda.
Okay. You can have him read anyone's thoughts or memories with you only need to pay a fate point for it, and he will. This will give him an automatic +2 to his next roll against them as well. So it's basically like an invoke, but you just pay a fate point for it basically.
Yeah, sure.
Hell yeah. Thanks, man.
It's
all right.
Jim also sees weird things.
He does.
He does.
Using his laser-powered eyes, Jeff stares at Aurelia and gazes deep within her soul. Behind her eyes, pathways light up as Jeff enters her brain, strange and digital as it may be, and begins to parse information that he can read from it. Feeds back into his own mind once he sees his reflection in her eyes. So you want him to talk about being a paradoxical witness. He has a +2 to his roll now, and he does gaze into Golden Echo's, Aurelia's eyes, and read her memory. Because she is an NPC, her memories have mostly been wiped of what she did while she was out in the world and alive. However, in the game, he is able to read that she has a mortal life. What should her job be here as an NPC? She's just a golden woman. She could be a beekeeper with her beehive hair, something like that. And it would make sense for her, I think.
Yeah, because she's been keeping us as bees for so long. It makes sense, yeah.
Perfect.
What is the term for a beak? There's like a term for that. What is it?
I think it's
like
just beekeeper.
He sees that she has had a life keeping bees, making honey toast for her son. He can see that both of them just sort of like woke up one day and that a building was there that was their home, and that she has never really known violence, so to speak. I mean, occasionally there's a little monster that makes its way towards town, and she has quests that she gives to players to gather supplies, berries or whatnot that she will use in her for her beekeeping. And there are also quests where adventurers will try to help her deal with her troublesome son, including teaching him how to be a better child and teaching him manners before he eventually just starts to act bad again. Seems to just happen like that. She doesn't mind. She thinks that when he grows up, he'll probably be better. Of course, he probably never will grow up in this environment. He'll probably be a child forever. She'll probably be a beekeeper forever until something happens to the background world itself. For the moment, then, she is not in a hell and she is not in a heaven. It's kind of a purgatory that way. her life isn't exactly super easy, but it is free of all of the things that made her what she was before. Once he has read this in her memory, he just kind of looks her over for a second, seeing the kind of traces of her job. She still has like the apron on from when she is a beekeeper, and the gloves are attached to her belt, and she has a veil tucked away somewhere on her person. And then he just says, "Beekeeper, huh?" And she nods. "How did you know?" Yeah, should he lie or should he just be honest with her?
Pretty obvious she's a beekeeper. He doesn't exactly have to tell her, "I'm reading your brain." He could just be like,
That's
point
true.
at the gloves.
Okay. He says, "It's pretty obvious you have some of the items that a beekeeper would have, and you vaguely smell of flowers." She nods her head and looks away a little bit of a blush. Asking me about a man and then saying I smell of flowers. Are you trying to pick me up or something? Jeff laughs. No, not at all. It's more like I've just seen some things lately. Like a lot. Strange things out in the world, and it's nice, I guess, to just see a regular old beekeeper sitting here. Gives me a little bit of hope, I think, that there is some semblance of order that doesn't necessarily require tyranny. You became a beekeeper likely because it was in your nature to do so. It satisfies you to keep bees, I'm sure. Knowledge of honey, when to harvest, all of it. It's like everything falls into place. A beautiful sort of harmony, in a way. I don't know that I've found my place in the world like that yet. I originally thought that it would be as a ruler, but lately I've been suffering so many losses and taking so many hits that I'm just not sure what I should be right now. The one thing I am sure of is that I should probably try to be good. I would say like your son, but he seems like a bit of a nightmare. She laughs, hiding her mouth behind her hand. He is a nightmare. Let's give them rolls. Wow. So he has a 6 versus a 2. That means she takes 4 mental stress. Because of the conversation, odd as it may be, and because she ends this little contest with higher mental stress than him, he is able to perceive more of her humanity than he otherwise would have. And that itch of electricity and power in his hand fades away. He doesn't feel like he should throw a spear right through her heart or through her child while she watches. Instead, he thinks on it, and the thought actually sickens him. If he had a stomach and a digestive tract like a human does, he might even feel ill, thinking that he was just this close to doing something so monstrous. Instead, he simply thanks her for her time, and with the small amount of gold that he has on his person, he buys a jar of her honey, which he happens to have on hand. He puts it away into his pocket and goes on with his day. Of course, without her power, or the power of her son, the honey could just be the last sweet thing he has before he eventually finds himself fading away. Because he hasn't stabilized himself yet, he loses 9% stability. As he leaves the town, the small starter town in Narayan, he can feel himself starting to, I guess, jitter a bit. It's like his outline is cracking a little, and there are pieces that jump sometimes on his personage. Sometimes just a small pixel on his face, a aspect, a color will leap off of his clothing and jump up just 1 little centimeter and then go right back into place. But he is starting to glitch.